Fine. Humans are noisy. They thrive on chaos. They like to make things. It gives them meaning. They do it over and over and over again until they shut down. Humans are fueled by inspiration. Inspiration and something called tacos. Change makes them nervous, but embracing it changes everything. Yeah, imagine that.
Knocking off the park.
What's up?
What's going on?
How's everybody?
Sound.
What's up, Shannon?
Yeah. I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure things out.
Hell yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm rocking, man.
Hanging.
Okay, so don't be fooled by the picture of Sean there. No, there is Sean. He's here.
Yeah, I just talked to him. He said he was still trying to figure things
Let's try
out.
that. Check. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Got
Something
the
now.
mic finally working.
My darling child has been in here playing with the soundboard. She does this. She does the microphone, and when she comes in, I turn up the sound effects. Yeah, she'll sit and do that. She'll sit and do that for like an hour and a half. It's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes. How's everybody doing? What's going on? Give me some
Good.
news.
Doing great. How are you?
I don't want to hear this doing great. I want to hear about what you're doing. I want to hear some good stuff. What you got going on, Sean?
Just went out for anniversary dinner about, I don't know, got home about an hour ago.
Which anniversary is this? Which one?
9.
Number 9. So you've been married for 9 years now. Now, Ed, I'm not poking on anybody's age because we're all men of a certain age here in this conversation, but you're a little late in life to be celebrating just simply your 9th anniversary.
That's correct.
Would this be a marriage number 2, marriage number 3 for you? What do we got going on here?
2.
2. Okay, so this is your second marriage.
That's correct.
He's
Okay.
got as many marriages as Michigan national championships in his life.
I have Ed.
There you go.
I'm currently kind of like on maybe, I don't know, what is this, Doug? 3.5 or some shit?
I think so. I haven't really been counting.
Yeah,
I know there's multiples.
There were. I had a problem with that for a while.
So, Ed-
Not like Larry King. I didn't go all the way with all of them, but it was very Larry King-esque in my love life.
Now,
Here's what I can't figure out, Ed.
I've selected my third wife, but that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, just in
So
case.
here's what I can't.
Backup
Here's what I can't
Smart.
figure out, Ed. And you're an older guy, and you should have obtained the wisdom
twice.
You should have been. You should have obtained the wisdom at this point to have merged Valentine dinner with the anniversary dinner last week. And that saved yourself a bundle.
Yeah, especially in this economy.
Costco hot dogs are cheap.
Well, the 2 dinners combined were about $300.
Well, Snuggle Lovins has no price range, right? Like
Well, and this is an anniversary dinner. This is not like your average date night. So you gotta bring the thunder.
That's
And
right.
not Dr. Thunder. You gotta go full Dr. Pepper with this deal.
Yep.
Full Dr. Pepper.
Have you drank a Dr. Thunder lately, Shannon?
Yes, I actually Diet Dr. Thunder just consumed a bottle probably about 45 minutes ago. I believe I drank the last cup.
Has that not like kind of went downhill, or is it just my taste buds?
I don't want to talk about it.
It don't taste like it used to.
If I start talking about it, then I'm gonna feel bad. And I'm gonna start like buying Dr. Pepper again, and I really don't want to spend that.
I think it is Dr. Pepper with some water
bottles.
mixed with it, and it was like sucked off the floor with a shot vac or something.
Perhaps.
It don't taste right.
It is leftover Dr. Pepper, a Dr. Pepper-esque.
What about RC? Do y'all drink RC down in Alabama?
Man, I don't do sugar drinks anymore. And it's not because I'm diabetic or anything. It's just I really can't stand that there's this weird aftertaste. Maybe it's the high fructose corn syrup or whatever they put in the shit now.
It's fun.
But yeah, I just can't. I can't do sugar sodas. It's weird.
It's funny. Bob brings up RC. Bob, do you remember what RC made in the '90s? Diet Right.
Oh yeah, I remember Diet Right.
And they had the different flavors. Right. You had like a tangerine flavor.
I think Diet Right's still a thing.
Is it still hanging around?
I think Diet Right is still a thing. I'm gonna Google this now. You've got me curious.
Blueberry, man.
They had a blackberry too. Which is
that's the one.
That sounds good. Awesome. Blackberry Diet Right.
It was good.
It was very good.
Ed, reach up and pat the planet up there. It's right over you. Look over to your left. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Now poke it. Like give it a poke.
It's right above your head to your left.
I can poke. I can sort of poke Mike Tyson in the. I can. This is the closest I will ever come to pointing my finger at Mike Tyson. Ever. I love that man. That man is a national treasure.
You know, if we paid the extra StreamYard fees, we could actually we could make our hands come out of the box that we're in.
Doug, you know what's always killed me? You know what's always killed? Because I know you're a big Mike Tyson fan, and we talk about Mike Tyson often.
I think we all are.
We all love man, Mike Tyson is just an incredible man, incredible human being. Mike Tyson, you know, he talks with a slightly funny accent. You know, that's his thing. That's the way he's born. It's the way he's taught. Yeah, I've never. Just like what Sean said, I've never heard anybody pull that shit to Mike's face ever. I've heard. I can't tell you how many hundreds and thousands of people in my lifetime I've heard imitate Mike Tyson and do that little lift shit. I've never seen anybody do that in front of Mike Tyson. Isn't that curious?
It is.
He might hit them.
I don't think it's that curious. He's you're not somebody you want to mess with.
Nope.
Yeah, you don't talk that shit in front of Mike Tyson. I'm always quick to point that out because I'll let everybody do their impression, and I just look at him and you gonna say that in front of Mike's face? I'm just and they even and some people when they really sit and actually just think about it for half a second, you see this look cross their faces like you're not gonna tell Mike, are you?
The only way you can do that is if the tiger has changed loyalties.
Well,
I was surprised, a few years ago, I think it was like 2 years ago, somebody was messing with Mike on an airplane.
Yeah, I remember that.
I give Mike a lot of credit. He could have just destroyed this guy, and
he showed absolute utter restraint. And my argument is, if that young man wasn't as intoxicated as he was, he would have felt that a lot harder.
I mean, I think that
Mike wasn't even giving him Mike was probably dialed up to 4.
Paid him no mind.
He did give him like a soft overhand right, but it was nothing like the ring though.
Yeah, right. He was helping him. That was helpful. What he was doing to that young man was helpful.
It was just a wake up shot.
Yeah. It was. Young man, you need to realize the situation you're in. I'm the most dangerous man. These hands are the most dangerous hands on the planet Earth. And you talking that shit right now. It's time to go ahead. And I've tried to be polite with you. I've tried to let's brush it off, man. You need to get now.
Now Mike might have had a little 3-chi in him.
Well, I mean,
a little 3-chi.
He probably had a lot of probably marijuana products and edibles, and probably had a shot.
So Mike was very restrained. I give Mike a lot of credit because he would have damaged that guy.
Utter restraint. He is so cool with that dude. The video just goes on achingly long, and this guy's just talking that shit, and Mike's just like, okay, dude. And Mike was being really cool with him at first, actually very friendly. This guy's a fan. I'm gonna play the bit, Mike Tyson bit. Hey, appreciate you, brother. All right, I'm gonna sit in my seat, you sit in your seat, do your thing, and God just kept fucking with him and kept fucking with him.
But I think blaming it, attributing it to the weed is logical.
No, man, no. Weed makes me act cool as shit. Well, are you talking about Mike's restraint?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah. Definitely the weed, the ayahuasca, the acid, everything he's been doing lately. The whole ego thing that he's on, which I absolutely love to listen to him talk about that. He is an absolute he is a very, very smart, world-traveled man.
Yep.
And you don't realize that until he really starts lightening up and starts talking about what he's been doing. since he shook all of those Don Kings and all of those hanger-ons that he had, and actually, got to start living his life and enjoy what little bit he could after prison, man. That was just that whole scene's raw, man. It's a raw scene. I love Mike.
You ever seen the video where he's riding the 2 tigers in the pool and he's got 1 foot on each tiger?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite videos of all time. So he's got 1 foot on each tiger and he's riding them. They're swimming to him through the pool and he's got 1 foot on each of their backs. All right. I'm like, that's a bad motherfucker.
Spoiler alert, the tiger is Mike.
Yeah.
Yep.
They knew that too. They knew that. That's why they were fucking parading his ass through that pool. You know what I'm saying?
That man, he's on a completely different plane, and I think it's going to be a long time after he's gone before people really realize the true extent and depth. Kind of like Ali, a lot of people had a lot of appreciation for Ali, but his mythos didn't really begin until he was, in his declining years and had fallen ill. Absolutely. And then people started to go and look back and actually analyze, some of those interviews and the interactions between him and Cosell. God, that is such legendary television.
My favorite Mike story is Mike got screwed during the '84 Summer Olympic trials to make the team. He got screwed because the Olympic.
I think Lennox Lewis was on that team too, right?
Well, Lennox was
British.
He's British, so he was on the UK team. But
he was on in that.
He was in that class for sure. Yeah, and Mike got screwed at the U.S. Olympic trials because Olympic scoring for boxing is different than obviously professional boxing. And the guy that made the team ahead of him ended up turning pro a few years later, and Mike got him in the ring, and Mike knocked him like into the 3rd row. It was awesome. Like that's like the just Mike didn't forget. Okay, you made the team, I didn't, which sucks because like the '84 U.S. Olympic team was just absolutely loaded. I
can't remember. Was that one of his first round knockouts?
It was. I think it was either first round or second. I mean, he just beat this guy to a pulp.
Burl the Truth Williams.
It was somebody like that, but the point is like that '84 U.S. Olympic team when it marched into the L.A. Coliseum was just loaded with stars. You get Michael Jordan, Carl Lewis, etc. And we were, sadly as a viewing public, we didn't get Iron Mike in that parade, and so it was awesome. A few years later, I think it was '87. You got this guy at Atlantic City, and he knocked him through the ropes. I mean, just bludgeoned this guy.
He didn't need a gold medal. And,
he doesn't need it, but like it's just something like that you look back on and you go, man, Mike should have been in the '84 Summer Olympics because that.
You're talking about Tyrell Biggs, right?
Yes, Tyrell Biggs. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
And like the '84 Summer Olympic team, arguably for the United States, is the greatest collection of athletic talent ever assembled. Like in one Olympiad, and I think we just won like almost every medal possible in that games. Like it wasn't close. The U.S. just dominated.
FloJo.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like it was the heightened prime of U.S. sports for sure. It was that '84 in L.A. I mean, you name the event, we probably either won it or we had multiple people on the medal stand.
Oh yeah, there was controversy in those games because the Rex Chapman, that John Thompson was the coach of the U.S. Olympic basketball team.
No, Bob Knight was the coach.
Oh, Bob Knight. Oh, all right. That was the next one. It was in '88. But yeah, so I got mixed.
'88. You're talking Seoul.
Yeah. So going into Seoul, John Thompson picked another player over Rex Chapman, and that player didn't do nothing during the tournament, and they were solely lacking in 3-point shooting, of which Rex Chapman was obviously one of the
He sure could.
Rex had his own trials and tribulations. Good to see him get through all of that.
Yeah, he's got a very popular Twitter page and so on and so forth. But the reason he was known in the end as a 3-point shooter is he had a horrible knee injury early in his NBA career. And prior to that, he was known as the power dunker. A lot of people forget that he came in second to Jordan in the dunk contest twice. Right.
Well, there's no shame in that.
Yeah, prior to his injury, but he was more of a prototypical modern shooting guard. But in the end, with the bad knee, he was pretty much reduced to a 3-point shooter. But they had no 3-point shooting in Seoul, and he could have helped that team, which lost the Olympics and prompted the Dream Team.
Yep.
84, that was Mary Lou Retton, wasn't it? Or was that 80?
Yeah, Mary Lou Retton.
Mary Lou Retton.
Right near the tri-state where I live. Mary Lou Retton from Huntington, West Virginia, right across the river.
She can get it, buddy. I had the biggest crush on her because she was like 4 foot tall and the big, thick thighs.
That butt was amazing.
Man, I ate my Wheaties. I ate the fuck out of those Wheaties. For like
but you also had a Carl Lewis Wheaties box, too.
I mean, they were nice and all, but they weren't thick like the Mary Lou Retton Wheaties were. Studied that box.
No, the 84 Olympics, because Bob Knight basically said after a few practices, he said Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player on the planet.
Yeah,
he's right. Still to this day.
Yeah, to this day. Despite over the weekend, congrats to LeBron. 40,
yeah, got his $40,000.
He got his 40K in points. That's never been done before. I think he's right there behind Jordan.
He's been playing ever since he was like 11 and for like 40 years.
I think he's right there with Kareem. Yeah. I think he's right there with Kareem. Is where
one of the greatest players of all time is certainly not the greatest player of all time.
I didn't know until today. LeBron is number 4 all time in assists.
What was LeBron's batting average in minor league baseball? Go Barons.
He did I think get an offer to Ohio State for football though. High school.
I mean, that's fine and all, but did he play for a major league a minor league organization for
No. MJ, I remember MJ with the Birmingham Barons.
Absolutely. Right down the road, had a house here and everything. And stayed as far away from us people as he could.
All right, so you
feel Charles Barkley got to go hang out at his house every once in a while, show him the lay of the land, show him where the strip clubs were. Sammy's down there in Valley Avenue.
Hold that thought, guys.
Let's do it.
Find us on the web at smackology.42web.io. There you can find our latest episode, or you can support the podcast by following our affiliate links at the top of the page. You can even buy some awesome Smacking Off merchandise. Again, that is smackology.42web.io.
We're here at Commonwealth Stadium, representing for the Kentucky Wildcats, right against the Georgia Bulldogs, right? And I'm live here, and there's fun and excitement going on. I know you can see that. This is Smacking Off, the podcast.
Hi, we're Fiverr, a global marketplace connecting individuals and businesses with freelancers offering thousands of digital services. Graphic design, web development, video editing, e-commerce marketing. You name it, there's a professional freelancer ready to make it happen. Filter your search by the service needed, budget, timeline, and boom! Fiverr provides a list of talented freelancers to meet your specific needs. Always know what you'll pay up front. No hourly rates, just project-based pricing. And because payment isn't released until you approve the work, you can rest assured that you'll be satisfied with the quality and get exactly what you want. Our support team is always available to answer questions or offer assistance when you need it. With the whole world of freelance talent at your fingertips, what might you achieve? Join today and find out. Fiverr. It starts here.
I think I'm going to get me one of them Fivers and do plumbing and basically have people hit me up for plumbing issues.
Virtual plumber? Yeah, you could do that as a consultant, yeah.
I've been thinking about doing this for a while now because I don't really want to work anymore.
There will be people that hit you up and try to get you to talk them through shit.
People do it all the time. They do it now for free. Went to a lady's condo over in Southside today and for 30 minutes. She wanted me to stay for an hour and a half. A friend of Dolores's, remember Dolores?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who could forget her? Old cock-sucking Dolores.
That makes her special.
She was dedicated. A young, dedicated, eager young lady.
You don't figure you don't ever figure she'll watch this episode, do you, Shannon?
No, never.
Okay, good.
Never. And don't y'all dare tell her about it or I'll call you a liar to your face.
All right.
Yeah. But boy, she could
You'll
suck
tell
a
her
mean
it was an
cock.
AI voice.
No, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna involve AI in that. She could suck a mean cock.
The world needs
All I'm
people
gonna
like
say.
Dolores.
Yeah.
The world's got people like Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
They're there.
Yeah. That's right. That makes
usually for right outside the airport for about $40 to $50.
Damn it, Jim.
Yeah, because they're in a hurry. That's the reason they're so good at it and so proficient.
The ones that do it for free though and swallow it to subsist on your jism.
We got 5 people on the show right now. How many of us have sucked a cock? I haven't.
Yeah, I think we're a bunch of straights up in here.
Yeah, I've never.
It's my daughter. Hang on 1 second. Let's pause this portion of the conversation. She doesn't need to know about that. Not for a while. She'll be doing her own podcast in 15 years.
The straights have to get on the drugs real bad before they'll suck a cock.
Not when we're drunk. One of the two.
I ain't never been that fucking drunk.
I
ain't never been that drunk.
As far as high, though, I mean, yeah, you can get high enough to suck a cock. I think Theo Vaughn covered this in a podcast really recently. Yeah, I mean,
they've tested it with beakers and Bunsen burners.
Yeah, that's why it's best to know exactly where you're getting your drugs from.
Damn it,
and
Jim.
Exactly how much you're taking them. Bob, we've gone over this extensively on this podcast with you.
Yeah,
the Copenhagen crack.
Oh yeah, it's important to know the source for sure. But what's making crack out of Copenhagen, you're distilling it to its final essence.
Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
It's the child. I have one of these. Squirted this one out myself. I made her myself. Sure did. She's pretty. Sort of. It's getting in the way though. Got tickles too. Give me them tickles.
Now, what do you do in life when you encounter an ugly baby? Has anybody ever encountered an ugly baby?
Oh yeah.
Not a parent.
But I mean, you got to realize. But it's just like when you encounter an ugly regular person, you just realize that they can't help it unless it's a situation where they can. You know, I mean,
if you're talking about a parent never realizes their child's ugly.
No, of course not. That's the most gorgeous thing on the face of the earth. But when she gets about 14 or 15 or so and starts, doing some of that Snapchat crap, I'm gonna have to bring her back down. It's like, no, you're not really that hot.
Bob's doing.
That's why you need that filter. That's why there's 3 filters on your picture because you're really not that hot.
Hello.
When they go meet that friend's baby and they ask, like, who does this baby look like? And Kramer answers, it looks like former President Lyndon B. Johnson. And the mother is just absolutely aghast at that comment. And he's like, what? It does. It looks like Lyndon B. Johnson.
Well, Lyndon B. Johnson did kind of look like most babies look in that. He did kind of have that look.
Eisenhower looked like every fucking baby.
Yeah. I definitely had a.
Whereas Kennedy looks like most guys do when they're like between the ages of 15 and 20. Except like as an adult, he had that whole Leonardo DiCaprio thing going on.
More like
why Leonardo DiCaprio can still date 20-year-olds because he still looks 20.
I think he still does that, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. To this very moment.
Kicks them to the curb when they hit like 21.
Yeah.
All right, so Ed, you said that Oates was shopping for property in Michigan.
Ooh, he did. You
were just joking, right?
I was just messing with you guys.
I mean, y'all not even looking for a coach, are you?
What's that?
Michigan's not even looking for a coach right now, are they?
Oh, they will be.
Well,
they will be.
A.D. Ward Manuel gave Howard the dreaded vote of confidence about 6 weeks ago. So I hope that means that Howard's on his way out.
Now, the rest of us hope he's not on his way out because clearly the Juwan Howard head coach at Michigan has been an abject failure. Would you not agree, Ed?
I absolutely agree.
Well, if Bama wants to keep Oates, they're going to have to get the checkbook out, and because he's going to be on everybody's radar every time a job comes up.
He's definitely in demand.
If you're Michigan, you've got to make Nate Oates say no. And he might.
He does love his Bama sport coats. He was rocking one last night that was very nice looking. Did love that look.
Oh, he's been on Webb Sanderson kind of look lately.
Yeah, Webb needs to bring him his coats down.
It's a good look. I mean, Oates is always fantastically dressed. I got to give him credit.
I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers, but Bama really does not have much of a basketball tradition, and Nate Oates has put them on the map.
That's not entirely true, but
I think Bama's like the third best SEC team, and that's because Arkansas.
The only knock you have for Alabama is simply the lack of a national championship. Otherwise, I think they're second to Kentucky in SEC championships historically.
I think it goes them and then Tennessee. So it's Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida, I believe.
Yeah, Florida doesn't have as many SEC championships, regular season or tournament, but what they do have is they had those back-to-backs with Billy Donovan.
How about Arkansas?
Really, the only thing that's lacking in the Alabama dossier is the national championship. But other than that, Bama's been a very solid basketball program.
They haven't been good in a while. They had a long run of NIT appearances.
Well, it's Avery Johnson. The Avery Johnson era wasn't a good era, but the Pelfrey era was okay. They did it all right under former Kentucky player John Pelfrey. And then prior to that, they were okay, but Webb Sanderson, they were consistent under him. Now, the reason that I'm not more on Arkansas is Arkansas didn't join the conference to 92?
92, yes. But they do have a national title in that time.
I'm going to say they were dominant in the 90s. They were one of the best teams in the country, not just the SEC in the 90s.
Yep. And Nolan Richardson, they beat Duke.
And don't forget about C.M. Newton at Alabama.
Yeah, C.M. Newton was a great coach, and he was also a great SEC commissioner.
Besides, Ed, what is Michigan? One national title in basketball?
I think that might be. I think that's right. Yeah.
Oh. So let's not think Michigan is certainly that much better than Alabama in basketball.
No, what I'm saying is Michigan has deep pockets.
Certainly, they have the largest alumni base in the country. I'll give you that. And it doesn't hurt that Detroit isn't far away. That's a fertile recruiting ground for sure.
And a more recent history of winning under Beeline.
Yeah, they've done pretty good under Beeline.
Yeah, I was surprised they moved away from Beeline when they did. I didn't think that was a smart move.
No, he left to coach the Cavs.
Oh, did he? He went to the NBA? Okay, that's fair.
And he didn't last half a season.
Yeah, well, that's, we talk about on this podcast, going from college football to the NFL is a bit of a jump. I would say it's a harder jump going from college basketball to the NBA. It's a completely different world.
Yeah, it's a very short list of guys that went from college basketball to the NBA that did well.
I mean last week Bob's trying to steal Billy Donovan from my Bulls to come back to Kentucky.
That's right. That's what we want,
I want him in Chicago, man.
Yeah, he's a good coach. He's doing pretty well in the NBA, and the way the NBA works is like program assistants that never played basketball somehow become head coaches. And then
it's a player driven league, that. Whereas college, you make your program, and you're the king of the program as the college basketball coach. The opposite is true in the NBA. The players make the team, and like Phil Jackson, wasn't giving Kobe or Mike, depending on his location, LA or Chicago. He wasn't laying down an iron fist. He was just sort of giving guidance. He wasn't. When you got a Ferrari, you just trying to keep it between the guardrails. You're not trying to put too much into it, and that's the difference between the NBA and college. In college, you can really, foment a culture and kind of lay down the law. It's the exact opposite in the NBA. The NBA players on that team kind of make the team, and you're just kind of there.
If you try to be a king in the NBA, they'll run you out of town in about
exactly. I mean, that's why it's so impressive what Eric Spoelstra's done down with the Heat. He's been there for a long time now, but he's a player's coach.
So let me go ahead and let's take a short break, and let's come back and officially kick off Dr. Balls.
You are now streaming Smacking Off the podcast. You can keep up with our current activity on Facebook at Smacking Off or Smackologists. Find us on YouTube. at Smacking Off the Podcast. And stay right where you are. More Smacking Off the Podcast is headed your way.
Hey, this is Kyle Golick of the Smacking Off the Podcast. I'm at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You don't need to come to Springfield, Massachusetts. We got our own Hall of Fame analyst in Dr. Balls.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the Podcast.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
All right, welcome back to the show.
So anything happened in basketball this week, guys? Anything?
How about Creighton beating Marquette this weekend?
Well, I'll temper that. I will say that one, it was great. You know, knowing the history that I know, Marquette has always kind of had our number. They were leading the series 59-39. We got to win number 40. That was great. A secondary note, you know, it was senior night, and two of the three we know will not be back because they're out of eligibility. That's Francisco Farabello and Baylor Shireman. And Baylor will be sorely missed. Baylor's been absolutely the catalyst of this team this year. You know, he's the straw that stirs the drink. So, you know, the double nickel 55, we're gonna miss him a lot. This is the best senior class in the history of Creighton basketball, the things they've accomplished. You know, Ryan Kalkbrenner's, you know, the center is the third wheel there. We don't know. He's got one more year of eligibility left. What his plans are, I would love to obviously have a 7'1" center come back for one more year. That would be great. But, you know, I'm not going to take anything away from Marquette because the simple fact is Marquette was without two of their starters. Their guard, Tyler Kolek, who's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he's a hell of a player.
And I think their power forward, Iguodala, he was out with an illness. They said it was non-COVID related, but illness is illness. And so you never want to beat a team that doesn't have all their guys. So, you know, shout out to Marquette. I think they're still a hell of a basketball team. If they get those two guys back, I think they're going to be a problem for any team, which we've seen going all the way back to November in the Maui Invitational. So it was nice to get the win, to finish up the home slate. No more games in Omaha. We finish up the regular season on Saturday at Villanova, and that's going to be a hell of a game because Villanova's, you know, fighting to get in. They got a big win against Providence, and it kind of flip-flopped them in bracketology. Providence was in before the game. Villanova was out. Villanova won a game. Now they're in. Providence is out. And so Villanova is going to be playing hard next week. We'll see if the Jays play that hard, knowing, you know, we're in. We just don't know what our seed and what our region is. But the bigger fish to fry, you know, coming up is the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden. That was big. And before we get even further into the basketball, I'll just tell you, we made it to March. This is the second best sports month on the calendar. Now, obviously, number one is September. September is a very special month on the sports calendar. To me, it's number one. But March is right behind it, number two. A lot of things going on in March, and the biggest is, as of today, we're talking here on Sunday, we got one more Sunday of basketball, and then the following Sunday is Selection Sunday, which we've been waiting for all year on this podcast since we love college basketball. But, you know, Bob's Kentucky Wild, you guys just keep scoring points, man. Can you talk about that?
Well, yeah, it's unbelievable, their ability to score points. I mean, you wish the defense would be better, but a team that's scoring 100 points.
Keep scoring 100 points. You don't really have to worry about defense.
Yeah, but they're just so loaded with offensive talent. Visick, I mean, I'm really impressed with the way that he's starting to integrate into the lineup. I thought he'd make a huge difference, and that he can rebound, he can block shots, he can shoot deep. He's can play offensive basketball, handle a little bit for his size. I think he's a great compliment. I think Bradshaw's kind of fell off in comparison. I don't know if they're competing for the same minutes, but if I was Bradshaw, I would heat up now that he's on the team. But yeah, they're just scoring tons of points. The Reeves was dynamic with 22 points, and then against Arkansas, and then Dillingham was assist man. I guess that he's usually Dillingham is coming off the bench and scoring hordes of points, and he scored well in this game. But he realizes now that people are keying on him when he comes in, and he was able to get some assists. And going back to Creighton and Marquette, Alexander had like 11 assists in that game. I found that impressive.
Yeah, Trey's, he's really become an all-around guy for us. Especially with, Arthur Kaluma transferring out in the offseason to Kansas State, which I'm sure, depending on what sort of NIL deal he got, he's probably regretting, because it looks like Creighton's going to the NCAA tournament, and Kansas State probably headed for the NIT, So I don't know if it was me. I'd rather be on the team going to the NCAA tournament. But, NIL is NIL, and that's the world we live in these days. But, big win for Kentucky. Good to see they didn't, they win. And then you guys are, earlier in the season would follow that up with a lackadaisical performance, and that just didn't happen. And to me right now, there's 4 or 5 teams in the SEC that are all very good going into the SEC tournament. And I'd be remiss, the Bama fans on this podcast might want to put it on mute, but what a win by Tennessee last night, going down into Tuscaloosa. And there were a lot of times where Tennessee could have folded their tent and went away, and they just didn't. And, I will say this, Alabama made some mistakes, some miscues in that game that they don't normally make. You got to tip your cap to Tennessee. Hostile environment. The Bama fans were on them the whole game, and they just didn't go away, and that includes the fact that their best player, Connect, really didn't have a heck of a game. It was the other guys for Tennessee that were contributors. And now Tennessee has a game with South Carolina, which they lost to them earlier this year. But if they win that game, I think they win the SEC regular season championship, if I'm not mistaken, Bob.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. And of course, South Carolina's played well as of late. And but yeah,
that was a dogfight they had. And let's not neglect South Carolina. Real quick, shout out to them. They had some trouble with Florida early in that game, and they could have kind of folded it, and they didn't. They came back and they protected their home court, beat Florida. Florida's kind of an underrated team, in my opinion. I think Florida's going to cause some problems in the NCAA tournament. So that was a great game. It was an early game Saturday. We had to get up early and watch that one here on the West Coast. But that was a dogfight in Columbia between Florida and South Carolina. Those 5 teams, and I'm a little off the Auburn, but Auburn's still a good team. But those teams, that top tier of the SEC this year, man, they're going to be tough to beat in the NCAA tournament. They all have pros and cons, but I'm excited for the SEC tournament in Nashville coming up real soon.
It's the best conference in the country this year.
I would agree. I think the Big 12's getting too much love, to be honest with you. I really think the SEC has been the best league this year. I agree with Ed.
Yeah, now that I've seen the end of it, I was on the Big 12 heavy, but now that
we did our research, Bob, we realized the Big 12 didn't play anybody in the non-conference. They didn't play anybody.
Kansas is the only one that really played anybody in the non-conference.
Right, Kansas, and whereas the SEC, they haven't dodged anybody. I mean, particularly Alabama and Kentucky. They take on all comers in the non-con. I mean, the craziest was you guys, Kentucky, welcoming in Gonzaga late in the year for a non-con game at Rupp, and I appreciate that. I know you didn't appreciate it because
that's going to be good for them, though.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so I think firmly now as I look at it, and it's easy because hindsight's 2020. The SEC has been the best power conference in college basketball this year, without a doubt, and I would agree with that. Ed, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, every team in the Big 12 that's going to get in the tournament is vulnerable. Everyone.
And I don't think they deserve 9. They're saying 9 right now. What do you? I'd say 7. I'd say
for the
7.
SEC or the Big 12.
They're saying right now the Big 12's getting 9 schools in, and I just think that's a little much.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with Houston having trouble with Oklahoma.
Oh boy, did Oklahoma want to rush the court so bad last night, and then that kid made it with 0.4 left on the clock. Yeah, those Oklahoma fans are all sad sack looking. It was great. It was great.
I think 9's a lot.
9's a lot. They might get 8. I think there's 7 that's truly deserving. And let's go back to Gonzaga a minute. Now, Gonzaga's been on a little run lately.
But this podcast a month ago in January, we were the only ones that did not give them up for dead. We said, well, let's pause for a second here. They got Kentucky still. That game was still upcoming when we talked about them. They still got St. Mary's. Well, and they go, well, Gonzaga only has, at the time, they had 1 quad 1 win. Well, now they got 3. They're sitting at 24-6. They're second in the regular season, and they still got a chance to win their conference tournament. Now they're firmly in. It was very
they are
funny.
Not getting left out.
They're not getting left out. No, go ahead, Ed.
I mean, that's really what I was going to say. And, that's a proud program that still has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because they've never been able to break through and win the whole thing after they got beyond the whole Cinderella role about, 20 years ago. So.
I would argue with you. So this would be, and we're all kind of in the assumption that they're going to make the tournament, and I agree with that. 25 years in a row they've made the tournament now. And outside of being a blue blood, which they're not, I know they're not because they've never won a national championship, but outside of being a blue blood, is there a more
consistent program?
Consistent program than them? I'm trying to find one.
Now,
we talk about blue bloods that haven't done anything in a while. Let's look at Indiana right now. Yeah. And Ed, you're the Big Ten guy. Talk about is Indiana ever going to get back?
Well, I think they're pretty squarely on the bubble right now. The fan base was pretty optimistic when Woodson took over, but they've been, okay.
Mediocre. They've been mediocre.
I would say they've been mediocre, and I'm going to look them up right now to see where they are. Because I'm not as a student as Ed is in the Big Ten, but when I was a kid, Indiana was there every year, and now it's like every year it seems like since I've been in my late 30s, early 40s.
Who was the coach again when you were a kid?
Well, it was Bob. It was the general, Bob Knight. Absolutely, absolutely. But now I look.
Bob Knights don't grow on trees.
No, they do not. And I look, Indiana's sitting 16-13 overall, and they're 8-10 in the Big Ten Conference. Yeah. I don't think they're making it unless a miracle happens. Where is the Big Ten Conference playing that this year?
Just to guarantee themselves a spot in the first 4, I think they need to get to 20.
Absolutely.
Well, they've got to get to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament.
Ed, where's the Big Ten tournament held this year?
It's Lucas Oil Stadium, isn't it?
No, it's not this year. It's somewhere weird.
No, I think it's in D.C.
You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding.
When you hit Justin Pike up for some tickets,
he'll that or the ACC.
Yeah.
He can be our boots on the ground there.
Oh, yeah.
Big Ten, man.
He got his phone turned back on, so that's a good thing.
Oh, it's in Minneapolis where the T-Wolves play. Okay. Yeah. DC is where the ACC is this year.
They've never had it there.
So they're having it there this year. Yeah, that's
right down the street from Paisley Park.
You Ed will have to wear his red raspberry beret when he.
That's right.
I mean, look at Maryland, man. A program with a pretty good history of not lately. I mean, the last.
I would tell you.
And a half.
I would tell you that Maryland went.
If you're lucky.
Maryland went to the Big Ten purely to get football money. It has done their basketball program, which is a very proud basketball program. No services. Other than they did get some good news this week. I guess a 5-star center committed to them.
Yeah.
But they haven't done much in the basketball realm since joining the Big Ten.
They've won or held a share of the regular season title a couple of times.
But Ed, we're talking about a team that won a national championship when they were a member of the ACC.
Well, I understand that, but keep in mind that, yes, we won a national championship, and that was a great day. But you're talking about 2 Final Four appearances in the school's history. You're talking about a lot of NCAA appearances.
Well, they got shunned out of the NCAA tournament when they were in the ACC many years ago because of the simple fact that only one conference member could go.
No, I know
there were a number. There were a number of Lefty Driesell teams that could have went to the. If back then they had the structure that they have now, Maryland would have made the tournament probably almost every year.
I know that 103-100 double overtime loss to NC State in the championship when we had Lucas and Elmore and McMillan and Tom Roy, and they had Monty Tao and David Thompson and Burleson. I mean, that was a great game.
That's arguably one of the best games in NCAA basketball history, by the way.
What's that?
That's arguably one of the best games in NCAA basketball history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hope Maryland gets it turned for basketball. I don't think they're ever going to get a turnaround of football, but I would like to see Maryland be a more consistent tournament team. And that goes to, the same thing is true with their neighbor, which is funny. They're not far from each other, but they won't play each other because of being salty to each other. But same is true with Georgetown. Georgetown's not what they used to be. And, obviously they're not going to the NCAA tournament, and hell, they're not even going to the NIT. But I want to see, Maryland and Georgetown get back to where they were years ago. Well,
I mean, I am definitely not a Georgetown fan, but
well, you know what it is. Y'all have watched C-SPAN for the past couple decades. It's very hard to get good talent in Washington.
Very true. Very true.
Throwing that out there.
But I think there's a better chance that Cooley will turn Georgetown around than Willard will turn Maryland around. I mean, Willard's turning into Mark Turgeon 2.0. And everybody was so excited when we got him because he, Seton Hall was winning, but Seton Hall would do nothing in the tournament when they got in. So it wasn't he was that much of a splash hire.
I think your Michigan Wolverines defeated Seton Hall to win their lone national championship in '89. Is that not right?
Glenn Rice.
Yeah, Glenn Rice. Yeah. Yep. Now, let's talk. And you're a very biased source here, Ed. So I'll take your answer with a
not me.
You're a little biased, but I'll throw it out here.
We don't have biased conversation on this show ever.
But I'm a little biased too. But I gotta throw this out here. What do we think? I would be surmised, other than for the fact that they love the guy. But does Michigan State really deserve a tournament bid this year? They're sitting 17-12 overall, 9-9 in the Big Ten. And we know the committee loves them some Tom Izzo, but do they really deserve a bid?
Well, it's debatable whether they deserve a bid, but it's always going to be in the back of the committee members' minds that some of his teams that aren't that great have been known to go on a run.
Sure.
So, and look, I mean, when you say I'm biased, I can't stand Michigan State in anything.
Right. That's why I'm asking you. Do you think Sparty deserves a bid?
Well, I think they're squarely on the bubble right now.
Sure.
And the question will be answered throughout the rest of the regular season in the Big Ten tournament.
How far do they have to go in the Big Ten tournament to get into the NCAA
championship game? I think.
No.
I think they got to get to the semifinals.
Yeah, if they get to the semis, they're in.
Yeah, there's just because this committee loves them some Tom Izzo. He's probably the last old head coaching right now in the game, right? I mean, Coach K's gone.
Patino.
The committee
could take but St. John's isn't going to make unless they win the Big East tournament. But
the committee could take the unstated position that we're going to punish Michigan State and put them in the first four.
Now, Bob, I got to laugh. Because I'm looking at the standings right now. You want to hear something hilarious?
Yes.
You said Patino, right?
Yeah.
He's got the exact same record, literally, as Michigan State. They got 17-12 overall, 9-9 in conference. That would be the best thing, is if it comes down to the committee has to choose between Rick Pitino and St. John's or Tom Izzo and Michigan.
They're going to choose between Izzo because Rick Pitino's now seen his damaged goods. He's staying with his
because of the Louisville situation. Yeah. I think Izzo would get the nod. I absolutely do. And now, Ed, another question for you. How much longer do you think Izzo has there at Michigan State?
As long as he wants.
Well, certainly, because he's the last Big Ten coach to win a national championship, that Mateen Cleaves team. But, I mean, realistically, how much?
5 years?
You really think 5 years, even with NIL and transfer portal?
How old is Izzo now? Yeah. God, he's got to be getting up there.
Who was his assistant? He's got to be coach.
Let's look it up.
He's in his 60s.
Let's see. Tom Izzo age. Check it out.
65, 66.
Izzo is 69. He'll be 70 at the end of this year.
That's pushing it.
Yeah.
I'll stick with 5 years. That's the outside.
75. Wow.
That's old for a head basketball coach.
He doesn't look it, though.
Now, who has he produced from his coaching tree? So that's what I find interesting when you look.
Well, to me, the biggest name is easily the guy that likes to kick people in the nuts, Draymond Green.
Yeah. So, but I'm talking about a coaching tree, right? If you look at Patino, he's put out Billy Donovan, Herb Sendick, Tubby Smith, et cetera, right? And, you talk about, like Dean Smith and Krzyzewski, they had their coaching trees, right?
Sure.
And they, and I'm really not seeing one out of Izzo.
Not
much. No, you're right, Bob. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think I don't think I'd quite give him 5 years like Ed does. I give him 2, maybe 3. I haven't looked at the recruiting class yet, but I think he's in it to get one more ring and be done. But I just don't see it. I think, I'll be honest, I think the coach that's the man now in that conference is frankly Matt Painter down at Purdue.
And he's been there a while, right?
I mean, he's got that program really humming like a song, like a singer sewing machine. Because how many times it's like, oh, this guy left, Purdue can't bring that, and then they bring in another guy who's not only as good, but if not better.
See, Gene Cady always had recognition for the team and was able to get them into the Grade 8 tournament and stuff like that, but he never was winning the truly big games. And
we talk about right now today, Purdue has gone back-to-back Big Ten regular season champions, and if they win the tournament this year, they'll have gone back-to-back in the tournament as well. I mean, that to me, that's the class of the Big Ten, the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah, that's true.
Illinois is strong, though, and they've played well.
Illinois is a very strong program. They have a very good coach in Brad Underwood. But they just can't get over the hump of Purdue, and that's a rivalry game. Those schools are, an hour and a half away from each other?
That's right. They're right down to US 36. And they, so I look forward to that game. But Purdue, I think, is going to win the Big Ten. But I don't know that they're national championship contenders though. I just don't believe. I think they're going to catch a team like Kentucky's probably a 4 seed.
The problem for Purdue is they play a kind of an old school style of game. You have you have your big man at the center, and Edie. You have your wings and you have your guards and everything. Whereas, and that's why I still love, and I hate to give you, Bob, credit because you are a Kentucky fan and you're a Big Blue Nation, but I watch Kentucky and I go, this team shouldn't lose a game. We shouldn't lose the game. You have like 6 McDonald's All-Americans, loaded with 5 stars. I mean, if you guys could just, blink on defense, you'd be unstoppable. I mean, the amount of talent you have as far as scorers on the offensive end of the court, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's sick. It's a wealth of riches. I was looking up your recruiting the last year. You were 1, 3, and 2 in recruiting the last 3 years.
Yeah. Well, now it's coming to fruition.
So you don't lack for talent, is what I'm saying. You're not.
Well, just look at the teams that Purdue would have to beat to win a national championship. So one of the teams they'd have to face, I think, would be Tennessee. And I think that Tennessee has all the ingredients it takes to beat Purdue at the same game that Purdue plays.
I would agree.
Well, Purdue doesn't.
Now the question I would tell you in that is the discriminator in that game would be, does Edie get in foul trouble or not?
Right.
Right. If he doesn't get foul trouble, there's nobody on Tennessee that can handle him in the low post. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody.
But they've got a lot of fouls to give, and I think the guards at Tennessee are better. So that's one team that they'd have
I think what Tennessee's advantage against Purdue is they have more depth. They can go 9, 10 deep. I'll give, as much as you don't like to give him credit, our guy, Rick
Barnes.
Rick Barnes, I mean, he's recruited for depth on that team. They have depth.
They're well set for a run this year. And then, so let's talk about Purdue versus Marquette, right?
That'd be a game. Wouldn't that be a game?
That would be a hell of a game because Marquette has a gritty low post man. He's not as skilled as Edie, but he's strong. And then
they got 2 of them too. They got 2 of them too.
Yeah, and
they're not as big as Edie, but they're more athletic.
So I like the guards. I like the guards at Marquette better when they're there. You just mentioned the point guard at Marquette. He's one of my favorite players.
Tyler Kolick.
Yeah, Kolick. He's a hell of a player, man. He's very efficient. And then, so that's one matchup I think would cause problems for Purdue. And now,
Marquette can't be trusted to string together a lot.
Neither can Purdue, though. Neither can Purdue. Because we talk about Purduing themselves. They've exited the tournament before the Sweet 16, the last 2 years? Is that not correct?
Yes, that's my point, is that the style of play they got with the dominating big man is I enjoy it, but I don't think that against teams that have depth or can run in an NCAA tournament that they can win the championship. So
I agree with you, Bob, because I think it's an older style of basketball. I think what I love about Kentucky plays similar to like an NBA team where regardless of the size of the player, they can all get up and down the court quickly and they can all make a jump shot from anywhere on the court, regardless of, they're not sitting in that traditional, okay, you're a center, you're a power forward. These are 1 through 5. These guys can handle the basketball. They can dribble the basketball. They can move up the court, and they can shoot a jump shot, and hell, a 3-pointer for that matter, at all the positions. That's why I love Kentucky, because those guys can, when they get it going, man, they can score. I think that's a difference maker when it comes to March. Is if you need a guy off the dribble to get a bucket, Kentucky can do that. The one thing I worry about with Purdue is if Edie's not on the court, they struggle to get buckets.
Yeah, and so with UConn against UConn, I think that UConn's got consistent scoring all the way across the board and incredible defense. So I don't believe that Purdue beats them in a championship situation. And as far as Houston goes, I think that Houston.
I think Houston is a deadly, dangerous team.
They'll lock them down. So if you look at all the contenders that's out there, right? So going back, you was talking about Kentucky. The reason that Kentucky is made the way they are this year is because of Alabama. So Alabama won the last two regular season championships in the SEC by running other teams in the ground, right? And I think Calipari was tired of that, and he decided to give them a taste of their own medicine because that's what Kentucky historically is known for, is running. And nobody ever wanted to run with Kentucky. They wanted to slow us down and get us in a half-court game because in the past we always had better athletes athletically than the rest of the conference. Well, that Alabama changed that. Calipari, I don't think he likes it, so he wanted to put out the most athletic team that's been there since '97, is my opinion, right? And a team like Purdue is not going to run with Alabama. They're not going to run with Kentucky. Or are they going to match with Tennessee? I don't think so. Or are they going to match talent with UConn? I don't think so. Or are they going to match defense with Houston? I don't think so. So even though I believe they'll contend, and it's the time for them to contend, Purdue is not going to win it.
Well, that's why Selection Sunday is so much fun, because not only do we see who's in, but we see the matchups, and we can project future matchups, assuming that chalk holds or predicting upsets. And so we'll know pretty early what kind of, we'll know right away, obviously, what kind of draw they have and whether they got a shot.
And that's why Kansas has been successful lately, is the brackets has worked out to where they were able to avoid early round teams that gave them trouble.
Well, Kansas is in trouble, I think, right now. Not having McCullers, that really, has sort of moved them. I don't put them in that elite tier this year, not having McCullers, and I don't think he's going to be back for the tournament. I put them as a tier 2 team. Ed, what do you think?
I'll go on record in saying Kansas has zero chance to win the national championship. And being the Michigan fan that I am, Hunter Dickinson is good, but no more than that.
Well, he snubbed Kentucky, so I hope they play again. And that was the backstory when UK and Kansas played earlier this year. Is Hunter Dickinson courted Kentucky deep and made a lot of promises and said he was going to show up, and ended up at Kansas. So we bent them over earlier this year, and I hope we play them again in the tournament and bend them over yet again.
Which is funny because you want retribution against Kansas, but you don't want to see Gonzaga again, huh?
I hope they do see Gonzaga again, because I believe it'd be a big ratings game, right?
That'd be a hell of a game again. Yeah,
it'd be a hell of a game because Gonzaga actually kind of played well for us. So the style Mark Few's teams are loose, and I think this team early, they did what Doug said they should do last year, which was play somebody. Right now, it didn't work out for them in the early season, but they got better and better, and now they're loose.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that game. I think it'd be another 100 points on both sides game, which I enjoy watching.
That was a great game. Absolutely. So
Gonzaga is going to show up every game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've turned it on here in the last 6 weeks, and that's a tribute to Mark Few, their coach. But we haven't talked to Shannon and Doug. It's just Shannon and Doug, you guys have been quiet after last night's loss at Coleman. How are we feeling about Alabama?
I mean, I feel the same as I always do. I feel like Alabama will fuck up somewhere, and it'll be fun to watch. But it's
really you have to realize with all of the ups and downs that we've had, going through all the way back to the Wimp Sanderson era. When Alabama was, having some success year in and year out there for a little while.
The way I look at this Alabama team, and it's a very good team, despite last night where, the ball just didn't quite bounce their way. The way I look at Alabama in this tournament, and they're definitely in, they're just depending on how they do in the SEC tournament, they could be a 3 seed. The lowest I think they'll be is a 5 seed. This is an Alabama team that could lose the first game, or they could go all the way to the Final Four. Like, it's a very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde team. Is that how you guys feel?
And that's the thing. It's going to take consistency to get to the Final Four, and Alabama really hasn't had a significant stretch of consistency throughout the whole entire season this year. So that's why it's been really tough to get super excited when it looks like Alabama's going to start striking hot, because, then there's just that inexplicable, what the hell, They definitely had the talent. There's no
Shannon,
ways around it.
I would tell you, and I agree with you, but I would tell you for every club that's not named Purdue, Arizona, UConn, and Houston, that's all of us. It's, one night you look great, the next night you look like, have you ever dribbled a basketball before? But I think Alabama fans should still be excited for the tournament. And as Ed said,
cautiously optimistic. How about that?
Absolutely.
I'm always excited for the tournament, and I'm, and I expected Alabama could go as far as the Sweet 16, and I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, I know this team if it gets hot at the right time, and the matchups fall into place.
I completely agree with Ed. It's not so much what you're seeded on Selection Sunday. It's the region you're in and the matchups you get, that you can kind of forecast out. If you get a rough draw where you're looking at, Goliath after Goliath, well, then, okay, well, we're, but if you get a nice draw and you go, well, if something shakes out, we got an easy road to the Final Four. I think this tournament is going to be just like last year's was. It's going to be wide open. There's so many good basketball teams, but just nobody that sticks out to me is going, well, we can't beat them. No,
what an oddity as an Alabama fan, though. What an oddity it would be this year, just to be the team that he did get to the Final Four or something.
It would not surprise me if Alabama gets to the Final Four. It would not. It absolutely would not. Because anybody this year, we've proven on any given night can beat anybody else.
Yeah.
The only thing that has held true this year is that in all the power conferences, it's hard as hell to go on the road and win at a tough place on the road. That's the only thing we know to be a consistent true this year.
Before we go, you guys name us a couple, a handful of games that we need to be looking at this week.
Well, there's really not a whole lot going on except for the Atlantic Sun tournament starts tomorrow. The Texas and Baylor might be a decent game on Monday.
Well, it's the last week of the regular season, so I mean the biggest one,
Purdue and Illinois.
Purdue, Illinois, Duke, North Carolina, and Duke. And Ed read my mind. Yep, that's always kind of the turn out the lights on the regular season. That's the game that ends the regular season.
It's hard to watch for me because I hate them both.
Oh yeah, I hate them both too.
You hate everybody, Ed, so you don't count. You hate everybody.
But, he's a Michigan fan. Of course, he's a hater.
Yeah. What about Tennessee and South Carolina?
I'm so excited for that game. So this is going to be back down in Columbia. South Carolina won that game up in Knoxville, and I've been kind of riding South Carolina this year. Carrying their banner.
Clemson Dane ain't gonna like that.
Well, Clemson Dane will be happy if Clemson actually makes the tournament this year. We'll see about that.
There was there, but they didn't do it.
I think they're probably going to the NIT.
How about Marquette and UConn on Wednesday?
It really depends. I was excited for that game, but again, is it a real Marquette team or are they depleted? If Kolek and Iguodala don't play.
If there's a team in the nation that can suss that out, it's definitely Connecticut.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, UConn and the other question on the flip side of that coin, UConn has nothing to play for. They've already won the Big East regular season tournament or regular season title, so they've secured the number one seed in the tournament. If you're Danny Hurley, do you want to risk your guys for injury? Probably not.
It's not the NFL. They're not sitting everybody.
Well, I'm not saying they're sitting them for the whole game, but
if you
rotation. You want to sub in some subs for your starters to make sure they're healthy. Because Danny Hurley's goal is to not only because last year they won the national title without winning the Big East regular season or tournament titles. So the goal this year is the trifecta. So it wouldn't surprise me if he goes, you know what, let's make sure that Donovan Clingan is healthy for the Big East tournament. Let's make sure that Stephon Castle is healthy. So it wouldn't surprise me if UConn loses that game to Marquette simply because
if they expend too much energy trying to win the regular season and the Big East tournament,
they've already won the regular. They won it today.
But if they expend too much energy trying to win the Big East tournament, it can cost them in the big dance.
Yeah, it could, but remember, they get the double bye because they're the number one seed.
I mean, there's, the only teams that seem to win the regular season, win their conference, win the whole thing are dominant teams. Now, Connecticut's very good, and they are the defending champs, but I don't know that I'd call them dominant.
I think they're I think they're the closest to dominant we can describe for this season.
The most complete.
Now, would I put them on the par of like some of those Krzyzewski Duke teams or early 2000s Connecticut teams that won? No, probably not. But I mean,
those days are gone forever because we don't get to know the players these days because they're gone.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. No, it'll be. I would tell you this. I would be shocked if UConn does not play in at least a regional final in this NCAA tournament.
Well, I think you're right about that.
And
I mean, they're very good. They're tough out.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't lost a home game this year. What are they at? They're just quick look here. UConn has lost a total of 3 games this year. They haven't lost but 1 in conference.
A very tough conference.
A very tough, power conference
right there.
They lost at Kansas by 4 points at the Fog. They lost by 4 at the Fog. They lost the only real outlier that doesn't make sense. They lost at Seton Hall by 15 in December. Since then, they haven't lost but 1 game, and that 1 game was at my Creighton Blue Jays, and the Jays shot the lights out of the gym with 3-pointers. But otherwise, they've been as consistent can be. They're probably the most dominant. You give an argument for Houston. Houston's been very dominant. And I think both those teams will, I would be shocked if neither one of them make it to their regional. And they're not going to be in the same region. Houston will likely either be in the South or the Midwest. And then obviously UConn's got the East locked up. So I'd be shocked if either or don't make their regional final. Say they go to the Final Four. I'm not ready to quite go there yet. We can talk about that next week on next.
Oh yeah, we got to have plenty. We got to save ourselves plenty to talk about. In fact, right now I'm going to go ahead and go to bed so y'all can leave.
Yeah, I got to get up at 4.
Yeah. Are we good for? Is Sunday good with the way that
we have to be? Yeah, because next week is the end of the regular season, and then we got conference tournaments.
All right, so we'll do it then.
All right, boys.
Night, everyone.
Great show, gentlemen.
Night, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for supporting Smacking Off the podcast on the X's and O's network. Be sure to keep up with our scheduled live casts and other presentations on Facebook at Smackologists or at Smacking Off, and on our YouTube channel at Smacking Off the Podcast.